Very congratulations to you, sir. This has been something, an effort that you've put in a hard yards behind it for the last very many years. Congratulations. Rajya Sabha finally vetting the bill, the Parliament vetting the bill. Throughout this conversation that we've been having over the last few months, you've been talking about hitting the sweet spot between managing the innovation ecosystem as well as securing the rights. As far as the innovation front is concerned, we've seen many relaxations, whether it's data transferring, relaxations with respect to startups, relaxations with respect to age gating. Do you think you've managed to hit that sweet spot that you were targeting?
The focus has clearly been on giving the fundamental right as pronounced by the Honorable Supreme Court of India, putting that in a very robust legal framework. So all the basic principles of digital personal data protection, the principle of purpose limitation, the principle of data minimization, the principle of storage limitation, the principle of accuracy, the principle of reasonable safeguards, the principle of accountability, all these principles have been very clearly defined in the bill. So once we put those absolutely accepted principles, globally accepted principles in the law, then it becomes very robust. The carve-outs which have been done, for example, innovation. The carve-outs are very limited in a sense that they have a proper safeguard behind them. For example, startups, if a startup wants to do something, experiment something, we will be creating regulatory sandboxes in which they will not violate the principles, but the compliance burden will be lesser.
Sure.
And once a product or a service is tested, then it becomes like any. That's why we didn't use the word startup, because a startup can be a unicorn also. Startup can be like having personal data of millions of people. So we have used the word in a very careful way. So that's the way by which we have balanced practically.
Give us a sense, sir, of what the industry feedback has been and what it may look like going forward in terms of a possible timeline that you may be looking at, or possible engagement with the industry as this bill now act slowly will be rolled out.
Industry, citizens organizations, experts, legal experts, global experts, they have all praised this draft. They have praised the formulation of this bill, they have praised the language of the bill. They have seen that the bill is principles based, this is not a prescriptive law, right? They have praised the very limited number of exemptions given to the state. They have praised the fact that very flexible implementation structure has been designed, which is digital by design. So I think going forward we should be seeing the rollout very soon. We have already been working on the rule making and the digital implementation process. We have already been working on it, so it should be rolled out very soon.
Let me get a word in on the GDPR. Anytime there's a legislation that comes in among a large emerging economy like India, it often gets compared to the GDPR. In your conversations that you've been having with leadership figures across geographies, you were in Davos as well, give us a sense of how this bill stacks up against something like a GDPR, which for long has been seen as some kind of a benchmark in terms of the toughness that it seeks to adopt.
See, if you look at GDPR, there are 16 exemptions. 16 exemptions. And I'll be very happy if you take a look at the GDPR exemptions. Exemptions for national security, for defense, for crime prevention, for crime detection, of course, they would be everywhere. But there are exemptions for ethics in professional matters. There are exemptions which are, now compared to that, our exemptions are very limited, very focused, exactly as per the constitutional mandate. For example, medical emergency. Is that a time when you should be filling up forms, or you should be trying to save the person, right? Disasters.
Sure.
Then the constitutionally defined carve-outs, national security, public order, friendly relations with the other countries, right? These are clearly defined, time-tested, Supreme Court has given judgments. So I would say our law is significantly more stringent compared to the other laws. And also, one good thing about our bill is it is not prescriptive. If it is prescriptive, then what happens is, as law changes, as the technology changes, law will generally not be able to catch up with it, first. Second, the compliance burden for the citizens as well as the industry will become very high. So we have kept it principles based.
So you spoke of exemptions, but when we speak of exemptions, one stark change that we see is that there is no blanket exemption for the government, but there are still some brickbats that the government got on terms of this bill, saying that this exemption, given that the government collects vast volumes of data, so whether that's Aadhaar, whether that's COWIN, is it time to clear the air that will they be equally accountable? Will Aadhaar, COWIN be equally accountable under the current framework?
Absolutely. Government is absolutely equally accountable. The carve-outs, the exemptions are very specific. They are as per the constitutional mandate. There is nothing which basically differentiates the government data fiduciaries. See, even the use of word fiduciary. In fact, I am so glad that one of the speakers in the parliament today acknowledged this, recognized this, that using the word fiduciary itself means that we are placing the trust in the person. Compare this with the other global laws where the word used is data controller. It's a very big difference, very important difference. We are saying that yes, the person who is collecting data has to behave like a trustee, behave like a responsible organization as and when the data is processed.
But the government still has the power to notify exemptions to government entities. Is that something that perhaps...
That is, see, all global laws, if you see, for example, it will be written competent authorities for prevention, detection, prosecution of crime. Correct? That is the way it is written. Exactly that is the way we have written. These are global standards which have got established all over the world now.
So borrowing from the debate that we saw in Parliament, you put on a very feisty defense of the RTI provisions, the RTI amendments. Just a word on that in terms of these amendments that were brought about. The criticism has been is that this dilutes the RTI.
Absolutely not. It's a very unfair criticism. Somebody who has not studied will make this criticism. Why I am saying that? RTI clearly, when the Puttaswamy judgment came from the Honorable Supreme Court of India, that very same day the contradiction between RTI and right to privacy has to be cleared. So what we have done is a legislative correction. Right? Even today, under any law, if the public servants, including the elected representatives or the appointed government officers, whatever disclosures they are supposed to make under relevant laws, they will have to make, they will continue to make. This in no way dilutes the RTI.
So I'm being told we're running out of time. I'll just take the benefit of 1 minute to ask one final question. Another issue that had been raised is on the front of the independence of the DPB. Just your sense, if you compare it against, say, the RBI, the SBI, the word has been that the government nominates and the government removes, has the power to fix salaries, and therefore in the government.
Very, very significant point. See, how does independence come? Independence comes firstly from the law. Second, the government doesn't get the right to modify the terms and conditions of appointment. Those are defined by the law, right? For example, SEBI chairperson. SEBI chairperson, even if that person is appointed by the government, the rules regarding the appointment, the rules regarding to tenure, the provisions related to the compensation, everything is defined, prescribed in the law. Exactly same thing is there in the case of Data Protection Board. Independence has been defined and properly structured in the law itself.
Thank you for that clarification, sir. And again, thank you for not just the efforts in the bill, in the Parliament, but also for sharing time with us. Thank you so much for being a part of this.
And I congratulate 140 crore fellow citizens for getting this law, for getting this right, exactly fitting into Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji's vision of digital India.
We wish you the very best, sir. Thank you so much for this.